right, let's talk economics now. Localization is often used as a word to bring economic hope. If more goods are made here, manufactured here in South Africa and sold here in South Africa, there could be immense benefits, according to many analysts. But the Centre for Development and Enterprise says localization will not solve our economic challenges, but in fact deepen them. We're joined by the Executive Director now, Bernstein, and thank you for being with us. I'm quite surprised by what you're saying. You're not even being neutral. You're saying it could actually harm us, localization. Tell us why.
Well, localization sounds very appealing. It's a seductive idea. But people always talk about the benefits, but not about the costs. So there's no doubt that a localization policy will have some winners in South Africa. But these will tend to be well-connected firms. We're not a very competitive economy. What are the costs? Because the costs are enormous. They will be throughout the economy, and they will include some of the following. If you're forced to buy a local product, that means you really wanted to buy an import, but you have to buy the South African product, which either doesn't meet the specifications you need or is an inferior product. Secondly, we don't have a big market, so local producers will be able to push up prices, and there's no upward boundary for how high they can push those prices. Thirdly, we will encourage people in firms into directly unproductive activities. They will be encouraged to lobby government for their product to be on the designated list of products. So we think this is a very bad idea. The impact of localization will raise costs throughout the economy. Think of Transnet. Transnet has to buy parts for its locomotives that are lying sort of unused at the moment domestically. But they can't do that. They can't find the parts domestically. And they have to negotiate with Treasury and the DTIC for them to buy these parts elsewhere. In fact, some of the mining companies are so desperate that they're offering to buy some of these parts themselves.
The other argument, though, and if you don't mind, is that, okay, if you don't make goods locally, you often import them, and sometimes you can import them at a low cost, and that actually benefits the economy if we all get things cheaper. But like you say, the importers, the foreign companies, can also raise prices, or they can choose not to import. I mean, we know that there's some things that are very important, like food. Look at what happened with vaccines. If you don't have your own capability to manufacture goods locally.
So, Francis, I want the South African economy to grow as big and as fast as it can. We need at least 5% growth per annum in order to deal with the unemployment that we have. So we're not saying we don't want the economy to grow. Of course we do. What we have to do is make this economy much more efficient so that our products domestically can compete with international products. How do we do that? The priorities are to fix our flailing logistics and power situation, which means we have to deal with the SOEs. We have to have those services for the economy at affordable prices. At the moment, they're very expensive and they're failing. So that's a top priority. Make the environment for South African firms as competitive as possible. Then we can compete with the world. And of course, we must look at what we should be building here domestically. I think it's great if we have the capacity that we start producing vaccines. That's good. So we're not arguing against that. We're saying imposing localization quotas, targets, enforcing government agencies to buy local, trying to persuade the private sector to buy local and setting the targets that we have. This will have enormous costs, and it will contradict what the president has said he wants for this economy. He wants a much more open economy. He wants a competitive economy. He wants a lower cost economy. He wants less red tape. This is going to add immeasurably to red tape, therefore delays and costs.
So you're saying that the competitive industries then will rise up naturally because they will be able to compete with the world. Some would say many industries need a little bit of a leg up if you are competing with the likes of China and you want to start making phones, for example. But we won't go there. I think what's interesting to me is governments often try to pick winners. Japan apparently tried to pick winners, but they didn't even pick the fax machines and all the things that Japan became known for. They picked other winners. The things that did well actually did just rise up organically. Is that sort of the philosophy you adhere to?
Absolutely. So we're saying we're not in favor of picking winners. They generally fail, as you've pointed out. We also have a rather weak state. I wouldn't be looking to this state to be picking winners, and it's a bad strategy anyway. So we want a state that fixes the education and skill system, that fixes services, that fixes the roads and the rail and the ports. We want a state that does lots of things. Our state is failing to do most of those things well at the moment. So we want a capable state. But we're also saying, let our companies compete with imports on fair terms. We're a signatory of the World Trade Organization. So on fair terms, South Africa has created export companies in the past, and we can do it again. But we don't need to impose localization quotas, and the costs of these imposed localization demands are going to be enormous. A few companies will benefit, but for the rest of us, consumers, government agencies, non-incumbent firms, non-dominant firms, they're going to be big costs. And we're cutting ourselves off from international value chains. All the latest innovation and technology, we will be cut off from that rather than being exposed to it and learning how to compete.
All right, saying localization is a false hope. Thank you very much for your time, Executive Director, the Center for Development and Enterprise and Bernstein. Now, as investors wait in anticipation to cash in on the sale of Distel to